Your mouth is dry. Not nervous dry. Completely, terrifyingly dry. Like your body has redirected every drop of moisture somewhere more critical than your throat. You are standing in a customs line. The fluorescent lights hum at a frequency that feels directed at you specifically. The officer at the window is processing a family ahead of you. Mother, father, 2 kids with cartoon rolling suitcases, and you are watching him the way you have never watched another human being in your entire life. The bag on your back weighs 11 pounds more than it should. 3 weeks ago, you were 4 months behind rent. The kind of behind that stops feeling like a number and starts feeling like a physical pressure in your chest every time you open your eyes in the morning. A man you knew, not well, just enough, sat across from you at a bar and explained something very simple. You fly, you carry, you deliver, you get paid. He used the word simple 4 times. You counted. You reach the window. You hand over your passport. You smiled the way a person smiles when they have absolutely nothing to hide, which is a completely different smile from the one currently on your face. Purpose of travel? Vacation, you say. He stamps it. You walk through. Your legs carry you to arrivals on pure autopilot. A man you've never met takes your bag without a word and hands you an envelope. You don't open it until you're locked inside a bathroom stall. $3,000. You sit on the lid of a toilet in an airport bathroom and stare at more cash than you've held in your life. You don't ask what was in the bag. That is the correct answer. Your hands are shaking. That is the first time they shake. They stop shaking after the second run. That is the part nobody warns you about. You haven't been caught yet. That's the only reason this still feels like a system. You fly every 3 weeks, different routes each time. Sometimes direct, sometimes you connect through 2 cities that make no geographic sense, a logic that isn't yours and that you don't ask about. The man who manages your runs is a phone number saved under a grocery store's name. He handles the tickets, the timing, the details. You handle the rest. You don't use the same airport twice in a row, not if you're smart. You don't keep the money in one place, not if you want to sleep. You don't think about what's in the bag, not if you want to keep going. You have learned things in 3 months that took others years. You know how to move so that nothing about your body telegraphs weight. You know what to eat, what not to eat in the 48 hours before a run. You know which terminals are slow on which mornings. You know that genuine exhaustion reads as unremarkable to the people paid to notice things. You have made yourself unremarkable. That is your greatest skill now. You are making $9,000 a month. You paid off the rent. You cleared the other debts too. You bought your mother a new refrigerator and told her it was a work bonus. She hugged you longer than she usually does. You let her and you didn't think about what you were carrying when she did it. You tell yourself it's temporary. But the problem with telling yourself something long enough is that eventually the words stop meaning anything at all. They become a sound you make, comfortable, hollow, a sound that fills the space where a decision used to be. The phone number calls you first this time. That is new. That is a shift you feel but don't examine. He says you've been noticed, not by the wrong people, he's deliberate about that distinction, by the right ones, people operating at a different level. The work is harder, the exposure is greater, the pay reflects both of those things. You ask what the pay looks like. He tells you. You are quiet for a moment that lasts longer than it should. Okay, you say. You don't ask what you'll be carrying. That is the correct answer. You don't ask who the right people are. That is the correct answer. You don't ask what happens if something goes wrong. You already know that answer. That is the correct answer. The new work is different in every way that matters. The quantities are larger, the concealment more sophisticated. You won't know the method until you arrive at the location texted to you 20 minutes before you need to be there. The routes are now fully international. You are not a domestic operation anymore. You are crossing borders with mandatory minimums attached to them. You have looked those numbers up at 3 a.m. on your phone and deleted the search history before you put the phone down. The first upgraded run pays $22,000. You hold that number in your mind on the flight home and try to feel something uncomplicated about it. What you feel instead is a very specific kind of loneliness. The kind that doesn't go away when other people are around. The kind that gets worse actually when other people are around because you are sitting across from them and they are talking about their lives and you cannot tell them a single true thing about yours. You have more money than you've ever had. You keep it in 4 different places. Cash mostly, in amounts that can't be deposited without questions you cannot answer. You tell yourself it's temporary. The problem with telling yourself something long enough is that eventually the words stop meaning anything at all. They become a sound you make. Comfortable. Hollow. A sound that fills the space where a decision used to be.
It happens on a Tuesday, in an airport you've used twice before. Comfortable. Familiar. That is exactly the problem. Something feels wrong before you can name what it is. A texture in the air, a stillness in people who should be moving. You have learned to trust this feeling. What you have not yet learned is that trusting a feeling and being fast enough to act on it are 2 completely different skills. There are 3 of them, positioned, unhurried. They don't need to hurry. They take you to a room with no windows and a table bolted to the floor, and they ask questions for 4 hours. Careful questions. Questions shaped like they already contain the answers and are simply waiting to see if your version matches. Some of what they ask tells you they've been watching longer than today. You say nothing. You ask for a lawyer. You repeat that 11 times over 4 hours. That repetition is the only decision available to you in that room, and you make it correctly. They release you. Your lawyer meets you the next morning. She uses the word yet once, carefully, like she's placing something fragile on the table between you. You hear her. You understand her. The phone number goes silent for 9 days. Then it comes back. Different digits, same voice. He doesn't mention the room. You don't mention it either. You keep moving. That is the rule. 6 weeks pass. Nothing happens. You start to breathe differently. Slower. More of it. You sleep past 6 for the first time in months. You go to a restaurant with an old friend and sit with your back to the door, something you haven't done in almost a year, and you talk about ordinary things and laugh at something genuinely funny and walk home in the dark, feeling something that resembles normal. You start to think the room was it, the warning, the line they drew and the line you didn't cross. You start to think you're clear. You do one more run. It goes smoothly. The money arrives. Everything is exactly as it has always been. You tell yourself it's temporary, but this time the words sound different. This time they sound almost like the truth. You make plans, small ones, a trip, a course you've been thinking about taking. You look at your mother's number in your phone and think about calling her just to talk, not because you need to explain anything, just to hear her voice. You don't call. That is the last ordinary night of this version of your life. They come in the morning. Early, deliberate, the way they prefer, when the body is slow and the mind hasn't assembled itself yet. The knock is hard and official and contains no ambiguity whatsoever. You know before you reach the door. 7 of them. Professional. Efficient. Not unkind, which is somehow the most disorienting detail. They read charges in your own living room, while you stand in what you slept in. The language is formal and precise. Conspiracy. Trafficking. Federal. Federal lands differently than any word you've heard in a long time. In the car, hands bound, you watch your city move past glass you cannot open. The coffee shops are opening. A man is walking a dog. A woman is checking her phone at a light. Everything is exactly what it was yesterday, and you are completely outside of all of it, watching through a window that already starts to feel like it belongs to someone else's life. You think about your mother. You think about the refrigerator. You think about the fact that she will find out today, not from you, the way it should happen,
but from something she reads or sees or hears from someone who heard it from someone else. That thought is worse than the handcuffs. That thought is worse than the charges. You should have thought about it 14 months ago, sitting on the floor of an airport bathroom, holding $3,000 and 2 shaking hands. You didn't. You keep moving. That was always the rule. The problem with that rule is it never told you where you were moving to. They give you a number, not a name, a number. You hand over your clothes, your phone, the last $40 in your wallet, a photograph from your jacket pocket. They hand you a uniform that doesn't fit and a bedroll that smells like someone else's time. They walk you down a hallway. Men look at you from doorways, from behind glass, from the yard beyond reinforced windows. They are not looking at you with hatred. They are looking at you with calculation, evaluating what you are, what you cost, what you're worth. You don't ask what the number means. That is the correct answer. You don't ask how long this hallway goes. That is the correct answer. You keep moving. That is still the rule. Except now, someone else makes it. Somewhere right now, the operation continues. Different routes, different carriers, different people sitting in different bars, hearing the word simple for the first time, and not yet counting how many times it gets said. The men who used you are not in this hallway. Only you are in this hallway. You sit on the edge of a bed that belongs to no one, and you count forward. The numbers your lawyer gave you, the plea, the years, rendered into a unit of measurement that doesn't feel like time yet. It will. You tell yourself it's temporary, but this time, for the first time, you know exactly how long temporary is. And somewhere tonight, a man in a bar is sliding an envelope across a table to someone who needs money more than they need to ask questions. They will count it 4 times. Their hands will shake, and then they will stop shaking. That is the part nobody warns you about. The cycle continues.